Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. This is Energy Speaks Back, powered by B2B Energy. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy and I'm also your host. Each week I bring to you energy experts from around the world. This is episode 172. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. Welcome, energy enthusiasts, to another enlightening episode of Energy Speaks Back, where I delve deep into our guests' origin and their knowledge within our industry. Please also look out for the video on my YouTube channel and engage with the comments and poll after this episode. In this episode, I meet a water expert who has truly impressed me with his career from construction to water treatment systems that make a real difference. I've been reviewing his product and we're actually trialing the product at Tracy's house. So without any further ado, let us treat water with the respect it deserves and dive into our interview with Paul Barker. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Brilliant. Thank you for inviting me to your premises today.
That's all right.
And thank you for the enjoyable breakfast we've just had.
That's right.
In your local.
Oh, great. Yeah. Any excuse to get down there.
Any excuse, and it was very nice. We both had the vegetarian.
Of course.
We're both vegetarians, which is interesting.
Yeah. Both
called Paul, both vegetarians, both support West Ham. So we've got a great interview today.
Yeah, perfection.
So Paul, as you know, as the audience knows, I know a lot about yourself. We've spent quite a lot of time together recently, building that like and trust and understanding, how your product works. But for the benefit of the audience today, can you give us your origin story and tell us about Paul?
Okay, my background is in the construction industry, and long before it was fashionable to be eco and environmentally friendly, I was always looking at ways that we could make properties more efficient. It just made sense to me from a cost perspective as well as the environmentalist perspective. And so then that led me down the path to various companies and products and solutions. And I've seen a lot of rubbish out there and I've seen a lot of good stuff out there. So, and I met up with two guys who invented this, Mark and Simon, Dr. Mark and Simon Vaughan, who are two English guys based in Cornwall. And we started working together, me on the promotion side, them on the technical side. And so we between us, we managed to find solutions for everybody to do with water mainly. And a lot of people don't realise that limescale is such a problem. It's a bit of a nuisance factor to them. But what they don't realise is actually how much it's costing them in various angles. Yeah.
So. Let's delve deep into your sort of beginning. Construction, what was that in? Was there a bias, mechanical, electrical bias?
No, it wasn't. It was quite the opposite. It was more timber work and damp proofing and stuff like that. But when we used to pull houses apart, I used to say, well, you haven't got any insulation, or in the old days, showing my age here, but they'd have 1 inch of insulation. So, well, no, we're all insulated. We're, and double glazing, don't think we need double glazing.
Yeah.
As far as boilers being efficient and pipe work, no lagging. Mind you, I still go into places now and there's not a scrap of lagging on pipes. I can't understand it.
There's a massive mismatch regarding efficiencies, what should be happening and what actually is happening. It is quite shocking, really, isn't it, when you look at that?
It is, and some of it's so cost effective. I've seen individuals and companies spend a lot of money on something for a small return, and yet for other things that would be less expensive, they could be getting a better return. And I still think one of the best returns is education. Educate your staff in turn the heating down, not open the windows. I know it sounds simple, but it is. Some of the stuff is that simple.
Yeah. Well, before we delve into the technology, what I'd like to do is delve into the education side and the knowledge. And you mentioned that softening water and this sort of issue? Is it an issue for organisations? So why is it an issue, and how does it get created? What is the problem there?
So limescale is a varying problem. It depends where you are in the country or any other country, because each country has its areas where there is limescale, and the householder often sees this as a bit of a nuisance factor around taps and the kettle. What they don't see, realise, understand necessarily is how much this is actually costing them. It's costing them a fortune, and for a domestic we can often say £50 to £100 per month off their bills in various aspects, and I can go through this. I do the same for commercial, and sometimes it's tens of thousands of pounds. The other advantage for commercial is limescale often causes breakdown, so there's actually lost time not making widgets because the machinery has failed. The other thing that commercially people have to be aware of is Legionella and other bacteria. People aren't aware that Legionella hides in the limescale but also feeds off the calcium. So, a big footnote here is we're not saying that we kill Legionella, we just make that environment more difficult for it to thrive.
Right. How does the chemical reaction start to create limescale? How do we see that?
You can visually see it. The calcites and aragonites that come in the water, they're just naturally in the water. So we don't use any chemicals to remove anything, by the way. We just keep the particles that would clump together. We keep them from clumping together, and we just keep them separated, and they flow through in suspension. They flow through and out to waste.
Right.
So that's what happens.
And you mentioned something earlier about the north and south divide regarding this.
Yeah.
However, you were saying something to me the other day where we are seeing some growth or movement from the south to the north regarding this.
In fact, I was not arguing, because I never argue with a client because they're always right, but I was talking to a person in Preston, and they said, we've got soft water, and I said, yeah, you have soft water, but when they showed me pictures, they've got limescale on taps, and I think water is being spread around a bit more, so we're very generously in the south giving our limescale to sometimes those in the north.
Right.
We are seeing a genuine increase in the area.
Right. And is that an environmental thing possibly as well? Changing water tables, etc.?
Well, I think so. I think where water is needed, it's taken to. And of course we are affecting the environment as well, because if you've got limescale in your feed water, then you'll have it in your wastewater, and so in the waste pipes, limescale will help to keep blockages. It'll crystallise, it'll create blockages. So we're not saying that all the other things that we know that goes down drain pipes, won't be a problem, but the smoother the pipes, the better the runs, the easier it will disappear. And these are health issues. I don't think anybody thinks it's good to have blocked drains and blocked waste. So
no.
I think that's all sort of common sense.
Yeah. Tell us about the technology.
Okay, the clever guys, Dr. Mark and Dr. Simon Vaughan, invented this and adapted, and I've not seen anything that works as well on the market, and I've looked at, tried, investigated, and all the major points of how easy is it to fit, do we need to cut into the pipework, etc. And what we find here is that we don't need to cut into the pipework. We simply have a box. This unit changes depending on whether it's domestic or commercial. This, for ease of a demo board, is a domestic version. So, but these can grow, and we can do any size pipe. We're not worried about the flow rate. So we're not saying, well, if it's between that and that, we can't do it. We're not worried, and we're not worried about the size of pipe. So we will adapt and make a unit for that client. And, we have some sort of off-the-shelf products, but if it does need to be adapted, we can do that. We do have a ISO 9001 for research and design, and also for manufacturing. So there's a little bit of comfort there that it's an audited company.
Does it matter, obviously, the distance between where you're putting this and the amount of pipe work that's the other side of that within the building?
No. There's sometimes where circumstances you might have, if this were to be fair to be put onto a rising main, it might be that you have UV system to kill bacteria. Okay, well, we would then want to treat after that because the UV might affect our wavelength. Sometimes if you are heating water to an extreme, when it cools down, that is where precipitation loves it. The cooling water is where we get the scale, which is why we see it in a kettle so easily. But when you think about a kettle, a boiler is a kettle, showers are kettles. There's lots of kettles around. They're just different shapes and sizes. So and we don't need to be what they call RAS approved because we're not cutting into pipework.
Right.
So we can easily move this along a system, take it back. But ideally, we want to treat as soon as we come into a building, large or small.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that this is obviously the certain size of this pipe. What's the maximum size pipe that we can probably go up to?
Well, without any trouble, we can do in excess of 1.2 metre diameter pipe.
Wow.
We've actually done more. We've done 2 metre diameter, which isn't your domestic. I mean, most of them are up to say 150, 200, in hotels and things like that, or factories. But no, we can do much bigger if we have to.
And when you're with an organisation, you're sort of introducing them to this technology. Is there a greater knowledge? Well, the knowledge is there that this lime scale is building up significantly, and the knowledge is there regarding the cost of it. But is there knowledge that we can impact on it? Obviously, there's the water softener that we could go and invest, which I'm sure up against this, there's a big cost comparison.
There is, but also a water softener has some limitations, and I'm not picking on any names of water softeners here. Several points with the water softener is that it will soften water as it comes into the building. It won't actually release any of the scale that is existing in a system. When we put our unit on, the scale that's already in the system will soften and wash through to waste.
Right, so you can reverse.
So we can reverse the problem.
Right.
The other thing about it is that we're all conscious of wasting water, and a water softener wastes water in comparison every day, 3 days or 4 hours depending on the circumstances. Every water softener has to do what they call a regeneration, and that's just sheer it shuts off the system, does its water cleaning. Some water softeners have got spare water capacity so that they don't bypass the system, but it's a lot of water. A lot of water gets wasted, and a lot of the emphasis now from government regulations coming through will be the amount of water we're using. And what will happen is you can't ask people to do things nicely. So the cost of wastewater will go up, the cost of providing water will go up, and we'll penalise people into being more efficient. One of the things that we noticed on several quite well-named clients that I'm not going to name here, I don't think it's appropriate, is the saving of water. And an office block for a head office for a very well-known company were wasting a lot of water, and toilets weren't shutting down because of scales stopping the seal. Taps were running all the time because they weren't, so 24 hours a day they were wasting water.
Right.
And that's typical of a lot of buildings. They don't get it resolved quickly enough or whatever. And the same domestically. People let that dripping tap, they don't realise how much a dripping tap costs in water.
Yeah, and funny, when you take that dripping tap out and you start to replace the inner parts of it, you can feel all the roughness of it inside, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, really, you could have put this on to reverse that.
Yeah.
Because if you've got it there, then it's quite likely you've got it all the way through the system, haven't you?
Well, this is what I said the other day when I was talking to a lady, and I said, what you're telling me is where you can see.
Yeah.
The bits you can see are 5% of the whole system. You're not looking in your boiler, you're not looking in the pipes under the floor.
Yeah.
We had some great photos taken the other day with a friend of mine, Rick, who pulled apart a cylinder that had to be changed. And it had to be changed for other reasons, but it was spotless inside because he had the kit on.
Yeah.
And that was a 40-year-old cylinder. You'd expect that to be hardly better move it because of the scale in there. So that's again a bit of confirmation that the scale that would have been in there was turned back in and pushed out to waste. Because
heat actually aggravates the process, doesn't it? As soon as you start getting it, you introduce the heat to the water.
Yeah.
It accelerates the process of limescale.
And that's why for a lot of places we like to treat the return as well. So in hotels and care homes and hospitals, the water will go round the loop, so it'll come out of a cylinder, it will come out really hot, go round and be drawn off or not, but it's constantly turning round in a circle. And so we treat the rising main, but as that water comes back into that cylinder, we put a couple of sets of coils, and can often do it off the same unit, depends on the geography of the plant room and where things are.
What do you find the challenges are with organisations when you're sitting down in front of them with technology?
I think education. I think we've had so much over the last 10 years of insulation, of various electronic systems that will, optimise this and that and measurement, and they're all important. I think I look at the environmental issues as a holistic approach. It doesn't matter if you have great insulation if you don't have this, and no good having great optimisation if you've got no insulation. So I look at it as part of the solution for the whole problem, and I think they probably just haven't looked at it, and sometimes the cleaners in a company do a good job and they keep it clean. They say, we haven't got limescale because the taps are clean. Well, they have, they just can't see it. And you can feel how rough it is, and that can't be good and healthy to have bacteria holding up in limescale.
And are we seeing good paybacks with this technology?
Yes. I recently did one for a gymnasium, and we looked at the cost of how much they spend on shower parts. They had 24 showers. How much time it took their engineer to change and clean. We looked at the softener and how much they were spending on salt, etc. We looked at all of the aspects and the energy saving. And the energy saving is 7% of energy costs per 1 millimetre of scale. Right. That's the carbon trust. So there's lots of studies being done, and they're all about the same, which is good because it confirms it. And so I go to places where there's 2, 3, 4 mil of scale. So they're spending sometimes 25% more on energy than they need to.
And this can reverse that over a period?
Yeah.
Not instantly, obviously, over a period of time we could see that.
But it's not
dissolve.
Years, it's weeks. I showed you one the other day where within 5 days you could see the scale had all broken up and soft. I have sat there in many a boardroom where I've sat there with experienced engineers, and this won't work and that won't work. And I never really mind what they think beforehand. I more care about what they think after. And we were fitting to a place recently. Rick and I were doing a fit, and when we were fitting, the engineer who's there all day was just mocking, saying this is rubbish and this won't work, and I've said this before. And 5 days later he actually rang and apologised because he could see the results, he could see the benefits. And that's what I know, we see it. It's not clever measurement. We can use clever measurement with TDS monitors, where we can look at TDS is the total dissolved solid. So, and that will change. So if we were in Ipswich, for example, which is one of the highest in the country, or if we were in Telford, which is kind of low to middle scale, so these areas will change. But it can be a visual thing. We often say, how long does it take you before you have to clean this element, or how long before you have to replace this? And they say, well, every 6 weeks we've got to change the elements in a cylinder. We say, okay, well, if you don't have to change it at 6 weeks, then great, you've improved the life
exactly.
and the efficiency.
Yeah.
So,
and then how long does it take to install this? Because I've seen you install this.
You saw me install a domestic one. A little bit awkward. I know I'm a slim chap. But
access.
It's the access is half the battle.
As long as you've got the access.
If I could fit them all like this and they were all at waist height, and that would be lovely, but they're not. A domestic one, 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Commercially, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah. And the important thing really is this: we need a power supply, don't we? As long as we've got a power supply adjacent to that.
Yeah, so the power supply can be wherever we can make the power lead, as long as we like, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's the only ongoing cost, is the power. But this unit here will cost about £3 to £4 a year to run.
Right.
And the bigger units, £5 to £10 a year. It's trickle feed. It's no.
Yeah.
That's not where the thing doesn't work on putting 50,000 volts through. It's not how it works. And obviously this is all safe to touch, etc.
Yeah.
And so the bigger units, again, they're IP rated so that they're waterproof, but as long as we can fit it somewhere safe.
So IP rated, so this could sit outside if it was on the outside.
It could do. I would always want it to be extra protected, but even in a plant room, it should be IP65, because you've got water and pipes everywhere. Yeah, so
exactly.
You don't want it to be a problem.
Let's talk about the different applications. Now, obviously, any building that's got water going into it is a application. But is there areas where we can be specific based on some of the case studies you've done?
We can. We actually make, which sounds ridiculous, but we make the water wetter. We take the surface tension down of the water, and it's very easy to test that, so people can. And one of the areas that we haven't explored enough is in agriculture, because we know that if we put the irrigation water that's coming through, it'll help the plants to absorb that much more easily. My future life would be in areas where they struggle with water at all, would be to help them, because when water irrigation takes place, it's so hot, or the ground is so dry, half it's lost before it gets into plants, and we'd like more of that to be absorbed in the plants. So what kind of business? Agriculture's one, but hotels, care homes, and remember, care homes, hospitals, etc., they've got a huge responsibility for illness and diseases. So for them, the other two areas for Legionellas, of course, is temperature of water. So you've got hot water's got to be hot, and cold water's got to be cold. So that's why you need the insulation. And stagnant water, you don't want water laying around for months on end, which is why they should, if a room's not used, every week flush water through. So I want to point those out, because otherwise I don't want people coming back saying, "Oh, we put your kit on and we had this." But
And is it a global product? Have you done overseas?
Yes. If they've got water, if they've got pipes, if they've got lime scale, pipes tend to be round. The principles are the same. And each country.
And have we got case studies of overseas?
Yeah, we have in America and in China and in India. It doesn't know where it is. It hasn't got a clue. No. The units can be made. The power rating is fine to work on 240, 110.
And in your experience, is there any countries where this doesn't need to work because the water's so soft? No, because it's areas within countries. Right.
And one part of I'm not going to name the country, but there was part of a country where it was soft water, and it was on a steelworks. And for them, the processing caused the problem, because they were adding lime in processing. They couldn't avoid the lime, because that's what they need to make steel. They need to put that as a lubricant between the steel and the molten steel. And so even a soft water air had a problem. But most countries have parts of the country that are softer or harder.
Yeah. And do you know how many of these units have gone out into the marketplace?
Oh, well, several thousand units.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we put thousands out there. We got testimonials from the smallest to the largest.
Wow.
You know, we always like testimonials because that's real world examples, real world situations.
Of course.
And we, you know, we really do want people to measure before we fit it so that they're noticing the differences, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant. So it's come to that time in this interview where I like to put you on the spot. Yeah, I know, we were on the spot already. It's really great to see this technology and actually see it in process here. But is there anything that you can give back as a takeaway to the industry today for people listening?
It's a bit of repetitive, so I'm cheating a bit, but I think it is education. I think it is the education of the need for water. The focus has not been on water, and I see that it is changing. We're being asked to use less, and so I think water is going to become, over the next 5 years, a major issue, and we are part of that, making water be more useful, be cleaner, and be more efficient. So it's education, really. The specifiers out there just sometimes, and I had a really nice guy who was a specifier, I've done that because I've always done that. And does it work? So, well, not really, but I've always done that.
Yeah.
So sometimes we've got to actually say we've got a square wheel. If we round the corners off a bit, maybe we could produce a better wheel. And I think that's where we would like to be talking to the clients and the specifiers.
What I find with technologies like this, so we have, obviously on our group as well, we have gas, electricity, all, you know, lots of organisations that are providing input into it. When we come to the water, not so much, you know. And for me, I think we need to be focusing more on water. That's when I say energy management is gas, electric and water. So water plays a big part in this. And the reason for that is that we are pumping this water around the building. We've had to pump it to get from A to B as well as. So there's a carbon cost there. We heat that water. So whether we're heating the water efficiently or not efficiently, again, there's a carbon cost. And then if we get a leak on that pipe, then there's another cost. So water does play a very big part. And seeing technologies like this, for me, is quite refreshing. Excuse the pun, refreshing, but it is refreshing to see. And I think it's important that as an energy expert, we need to be bringing all these technologies together, especially in the water sector, because water is very precious. As far as I'm concerned.
I mean, water is fairly important to us. It's up there with, you know, iPhones and Nike trainers, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Without it, we
can't survive
without either of those. But no, on the serious side, water is becoming more difficult to process. And I think you're right. And the advantage I think that we have is that, we're not creating a huge carbon footprint in the manufacturing. We're not taking a lot of electric to power it, and of course we don't use chemicals, so we don't need to keep every week filling it with chemicals. A lot of areas in America have banned salt softeners, because you're throwing sodium back into the waste. So it's not accepted. I think there's 10 states in America now where you can't buy water softeners. I may be corrected, but it was 9 or 10 states, and whether that's got a time limit where they're just going to run them out and whatever, and everything the Americans do, we tend to do over here eventually. But it's creating the same environmental problem.
I think the important thing here is we need to be managing consumption of the water, but also managing the quality of the water. The better the quality, the better efficiencies we're going to be getting out of it at the end. Electricity and gas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a whole win-win situation, isn't it?
There isn't a downside. Obviously, there's a cost, but the cost is, you know, as I say, when I did that one recently for the gym, the payback was less than 4 months. So when we're looking at ROIs for industry, and we're looking at 2 years, 5 years, I talk to solar people, and I'm I believe in solar. I think it works. People get, good, and we're talking sort of 7 to 10 year payback. The batteries, we're looking at sort of 4 or 5 years payback. Not saying they shouldn't be there and that we should be doing all of it, but
one question I didn't ask. The product is pretty stable, what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
Is there any movement forward regarding enhancement? Have you got like a roadmap for development?
We have got a little bit. I say the royal we. Mark and Simon have got a little bit of an idea of where to take it. The thing is, if we're so advanced in what we're able to do, the tweaks that they can make will be negligible in the performance, but we are making it better and better, more reliable, etc. But this kit will last 20 years. We know because we've had units last more than 20 years, so we're not picking a figure out of the air for that. Of course, we warranty it.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much for your hospitality, obviously, but thank you for sharing this story.
Brilliant.
We're very interested and excited about where this story can go, because I think it's very valuable. We need to be addressing that. I work with so many organisations that have the problem with limescale being built up, because we know once that starts to build up, we start to lose the efficiencies. More importantly, equipment starts to foul, valves, strainers, etc., all start to get impacted on it. So it's life cycle of the building as well. So it's very key to what we're doing, and it does play a big part in long term the net zero journey. So thank you very much for your story today.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
And lastly, you and your family stay safe in these times.
Thank you to my guest for joining me today on Energy Speaks Back. I'm very proud and humbled to have the opportunity to interview energy experts from around the world, and I hope you found today's episode of value. Don't forget to listen to the previous episodes, because they are full of insights to help you make a real impact on energy efficiency. And remember, tiny changes that we make today can bring us profound savings in the future. Together we can drive change and make a difference. That leaves me with one more thing to say. Please, you and your family, be safe in these times.